Okay, y'all. Brene Brown calling me out today. I finished the book, The Gifts of Imperfection by Brene Brown. And in one of the last chapters, she talks about she's at the mall with her daughter, and her daughter's doing the robot, not thinking anything of it. She's like 8. And then she realizes people are watching her, and she gets embarrassed. And she freezes and looks at her mom to be like, what do I do? And in that moment, her mom starts doing the robot with her. And Brene says that she realized she had a choice in that moment, that she could betray her child and save herself and be like, oh, stop doing that because you're embarrassing me too. But instead, she chose to join in with her so that she wouldn't be embarrassed. Now, beautiful story. That's so great. But it made me realize how many times I've betrayed my own kids to save myself. That's a hard thing to admit, but it's true. Especially when I was younger. I was 19 when I had my oldest son. I didn't know what I was doing. And in my mind, I was just trying to help him behave. And I didn't want him to be embarrassing. So I would just try to stifle that. Like whenever he was being silly, I would be like, oh, calm down, sit down, do as you're told, be quiet. Because I thought that's what you're supposed to do. But I didn't realize yet, and I cared too much what other people thought at that time. And in doing so, I feel like I stifled his ability to be silly in front of people. And almost like I passed that on to him, like he cares too much what people think too. And I feel like as I grow and learn that it doesn't really matter what anybody else thinks, he's also kind of learning and growing, which leads me to a whole nother thing, which is that maybe we're breaking these generational patterns together. Like I'm healing myself, and in doing so, I'm healing it for him too. Which I didn't realize. It made me realize nobody did that for me. And nobody ever said, hey, sorry about all that bullshit I passed down to you. Which I didn't know that I needed until I realized that I wanted to tell my kids that I was sorry. I think there's power in apology. I think there's power in admitting when you're wrong or when you screwed up. Even if you were young, like I was young, I didn't know. But there's power in apology. And there's power in admitting when you were wrong and that you were doing the best you could. And I wish that my parents had been able to do that for me. And I wish that maybe they'd cleaned up their own mess a little bit so that they didn't pass it on to me, or we could have done it together, which is what I'm trying to do for my kids. So, moral of the story, in these moments, when you have the choice, don't betray your kids to save yourself. Be silly with them so that they know it's fantastic to be silly, and who cares what anybody else thinks. And apologize when you're wrong, because there's power in apology. Feels good. Update. I talked to my teenagers about this, and my 17-year-old son said, I'm glad I'm not weird and that I'm not silly in front of people, so thanks for not doing that to me, because yeah, I don't want to do that. So, and then he just walked away. And then my daughter, who's very comfortable in her weirdness, said, that didn't really work for me because for the first 4 years of school, I tried to pinch people with my toes, Mom. So, and she didn't really care that she was weird because she's comfortable in her weirdness. But I'm so glad I had the conversation with them, because sometimes you think you're failing when you're doing okay. And that's really good to know that you're not failing. And I just think it's important to communicate with your kids, and so they know you're trying. So, yeah, same advice still stands, but maybe don't be so hard on yourself.